will control the vertical.
Welcome to Anthologic, the TV anthology podcast. I am your host, Mark. Anthologic is a podcast dedicated to exploring the good, the bad, and the odd of horror, science fiction, and the best of mystery suspense anthology shows and series on TV. Join me as we slip through the cracks of reality to approach the extremes of experience, where we can peruse the stories and art of a sinister fairground of strange and wonderful rides. And now we go on to the show that is the focus of this particular episode. Welcome to this episode of Anthologic with your host Mark. Today we're covering a anthology series designed for children, a children's horror anthology series made in Britain. It was originally broadcast or premiered on the UK on CBBC, the child BBC channel, and on Canada a little while after on the Family Channel, and then eventually it got to the US via Netflix as an original, presented as an original series. It first aired on Halloween, appropriately enough, 31st of October 2017. And series 1 consisted of 13 episodes, but there were 2 series overall. Series 2, there was only 10 episodes, and that started airing on the 24th of April 2019. So COVID was in the mix, I guess, in the production of this. So 23 episodes in all. As I say, it's a children's one, but it's more on the more serious side. Not too scary, not too graphic. Dealing with, I think, the problems of children. It's kind of relatable from that way. Now, the premise of this is kind of interesting. Creeped Out as is what it's called, as I said, but it involves a character just walking around called the Curious. A man or a boy or a child or some sort, maybe. It's hard to tell. Because you see this character just walking around on their own. It's hard to figure out if it's a grown man or an older child or what it is, because they wear this like blank face mask and just walk around. And the premise is the Curious is someone who tries to collect stories. They're not intrinsic part of the stories. They're just observing. Is kind of how it works. Apparently it was somewhat inspired by Steven Spielberg's Amazing Stories. So it was kind of channeling that a little. It's very British. The cast is British, though the narrator talking about the Curious is American lady. So yeah. Watched the first one and it was okay. Yeah, it was called Slapstick, directed by Steve Hughes, written by Robert Butler, and basically it's the story of a child, a young girl, I'd say 13, embarrassed by her parents. Her parents are a bit, kooky. They embarrass her somewhat. Dad's a bit of a slob, and she doesn't like that. He makes terrible jokes. He's got terrible, for example, he grabs her in a bear hug at the beginning and makes farting noises and says, "Oh, you better have the high fiber diet," and stuff like that. And her mum makes these horrible shakes that are supposed to be healthy. That she always just wants a regular breakfast. She kind of wants to escape this, and it precipitates them with them going to a party and. Neighbour's party. The girl who she goes to school with, who doesn't really like her, is part of the in crowd, a popular person, doesn't really like Jessie. Jessie is the main character here. And we prior to the party, we also see that she gets given a birthday present. She wants a specific pair of trainers that the other girl has got, and her parents have bought a knockoff pair that are just not as good. And not only do they give her trainers she doesn't really want, they kind of get her to parade up and down the seafront, because they live in the seaside, in front of this girl. And it just happens to be this girl whose party it is, and her friends are there, and they're laughing at them. And she's terribly distressed and embarrassed by her parents. At one point, she's saying, "Can you move away from the windows? People might see you," because they're like dressed in pajamas and stuff. She's obviously exasperated with her parents. That's the point. And so she goes and sits on the beach. She doesn't know what to do. And there's a puppet show on with a character called Mr. Blackteeth. It's kind of Mr. Punch kind of character. Who she's not really watching, she's just sitting there, and a young lad starts collecting money and then comes over to her and says he wants to talk to you. She goes, "Well, I haven't got any money, I wasn't really watching." He goes, "No, he still wants to talk to her." And this puppet, Mr. Blackteeth, quite a scary looking puppet really, sort of says, "Oh, I can help you with your if you want your parents to do exactly as you want, you just got to do this, knock on your head 3 times and say that's the way to do it," which she does, and I think she goes home and doesn't think more about it. But the next morning when she wakes up, her parents are basically like automatons. They do whatever she says. They can talk, but they're just agreeing with her or trying to do whatever she wants them to do. At first, she's quite pleased. She says, you got to dress properly. You got to not make jokes at the party to her dad. You got to not laugh too loud to her mum. But you're allowed to laugh at the volume that other people are laughing at and join in with such laughter and all this. They go, and she thinks it's going okay, and she says to the other girl, maybe we can walk to school together because we live next to each other. And she said, "Nah, I don't want to do that." And then she starts to observe her own parents are just not the same. They're not. They're just not communicating much. At one point, the girl who's having the birthday party squirts tomato sauce over her and sort of laughs. And sort of says, "What did you like?" Goes, "It's a joke." And they're all laughing, and she sees her own mother kind of joining in laughter because she's been told to join in with laughter, right? Anyway, she's kind of unhappy about all this. She goes back and finds Mr. Blackteeth, who basically says, "You got to live with these consequences." And then we find out that the lad who first talked to her actually did exactly the same thing, and his parents, and was told the only way back is to find someone to replace him, then he can have his parents back. And Jesse has the collection jar the lad used, and that's his curse. But then she goes outside and sees him rejoin with his parents, who seem normal again, and so that's her penance. She has to stay there and try and find someone to replace herself, is the premise. And it ends with her seeing a boy who's obviously disaffected with his parents, and she kind of smiles a little to herself. I think she's found a victim, but it just shows she's got consequences. It was decent. It's a child's horror anthology, so it can never be too strong. It was reasonably well acted. Had no complaints about that. Well presented, well filmed. It's a fairly sort of straightforward and light. I mean, it was about 20 odd minutes, so they're not very particularly long stories. It was okay, is the best I can say, really. I had no complaints about any of the actors or anything like that. It's kind of what perhaps you would expect from CBeebies for this kind of thing. Yeah, not bad. I think I'll wind it up there. But before I go, may I ask, is anybody out there?
I'm not.
We now return control of your television set to you until next week at this same time, when the control voice will take you to